Right, Big Mo, thank you so much for giving me some time today. It's really appreciated. It's a massive fight week. Jake Paul, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. How are you feeling going into this one? Because you must be very excited.
I'm excited. Look, I love being in Southern California, obviously. I'm excited to be back working with Most Valuable Promotions, Jake and Nikisa again and the whole team. To be my first fight on DAZN. I've actually never announced on DAZN, which is kind of surprising. To have announced on Sky and Netflix and all and ESPN and NBC, but not DAZN is so. But I'm excited for that. I'm excited to work with new people. No, it's going to be good. I think obviously the focus is on Paul Chavez, but I think the co-main event is great. Zurdo against Dorticos. I think Zurdo is extremely underrated. I think the fact that he ever got to super middleweight is insane, and now he's one of the more dominant cruiserweights in the world. I mean, hopefully at some point we get to see that unification or undisputed with Jayo Pataya. We'll see if that happens. But no, it's a lot of good fighters on the card. It's a Golden Boy co-promotion. So it'll be my first time working with Oscar also, which is exciting. But it's great. I got to talk with Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., who's obviously just a legend. He's been around all week. So it's overall just been a great experience so far.
Yeah, it's great to see you ticking these networks off one by one. But obviously, I
Yeah.
want to get into some of your fantastic career achievements in just a second. But just sticking with
Oh,
Jake
thank
Paul,
you.
Julio Cesar Chavez, just for a second. Obviously, I know you can't give me a prediction, but what is your breakdown
Right.
for this matchup? What is the keys to victory for both men?
Yeah. Look, Jake, Jake is progressing very well as a boxer, in my opinion. People are going to have varying opinions of Jake Paul. I like what he's doing. I think what he's doing is no different than what a lot of professional boxers do early on in their career. Um, sorry, it is different than what most boxers do early on in their career in the sense that most boxers for their first, 10 to 15 fights are purely just either developmental or building a market or building a fan base or, maybe going to different cities here and there. He's obviously a global superstar before he became a boxer. So the track is completely different for him. And I think that may be why some people are hot and cold with him. He's in a different position than no other boxer has ever been in. The other thing I like about Jake is every other fight on his card is great professional boxing. I mean, the co-main event is Zurdo versus Dorticos for a unified world title. The co-main event on Paul Tyson was Taylor versus Serrano, obviously. So um, I think the keys to victory for Jake on this one is I think we're gonna get an idea of this fight of how good of a boxer Jake is. That's the one thing that you can't discredit about Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He's obviously had some battles in the past, some out of the ring stuff that he's had to deal with, but he is Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He is 54-6 as a professional, and he is a former WBC middleweight champion and the son of Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. He knows how to box. Whether his cardio is what it was, I have no idea. Whether his strength is what it was, I have no idea. But he can box. So I think we're going to get an idea of, all right, Jake, let's see how much you've really been in the gym working. You fought some UFC guys, you fought an older Mike Tyson. Let's get an idea of the real boxing that you've been doing because it's been quite some time since that Tommy Fury fight. It's been a couple years, and he's been a really, really dedicated fighter. I respect what he's doing. And I think we might see something from Jake, but I think his key to victory, if anything else, is going to be the youth is on his side. In theory, cardio is on his side, and in theory, power is on his side. So if you have all three of those, then you might be successful.
Yeah, that's a fascinating breakdown. And obviously, it's going to be great for you to announce Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., but you've just announced the
Ah,
great Mike Tyson. So, can you tell me what was that moment like for you? That must have been insane. I know you grew up doing
oh my
combat
God.
sports and now you're announcing Mike Tyson. That must have been mental.
It's yeah, it's crazy how fast it's gone. Like, don't get me wrong, when I got started in this industry, I knew what I wanted to accomplish, and I knew that I had the capabilities of doing good things, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to be in this industry for 20, 25 years before I ever get to do a big fight. I wanted it now. And, I remember when Boxer signed me and the first big show I did was Shields versus Marshall at the O2 Arena, sold out, 20,000, Sky, ESPN. And so at that point, I kind of thought I could, do anything at that point. Like after you do an undisputed world title at the O2 sold out, it's, there's not a whole lot past that. Um, so then my career progressed. I started doing more and more fights and things like that. And then this opportunity with Netflix came and introduced Mike Tyson. And it was just like, it's gone so fast, but I've been very appreciative of it all. And it's been a whirlwind. And I'm just getting started, which is the craziest part. But introducing Mike Tyson on that platform, it was surreal. But at the same time, it also felt right. I believe heavily in visualization and affirmation. And I think a lot of that was displayed with that night. A lot of grinding in smaller venues and in front of smaller audiences on regional shows or things like that. Like I've been me the whole time, and it's worked, and it's guided me throughout my career.
Yeah, that must have been insane for you. And it's great to hear you talk all about it. Now, segueing slightly into the Hulu show, Mike, can you tell me a little bit what that was like? Did you
Yeah.
have any behind the scenes stories from that?
So that's I guess a funny side quest that I've had in my career. I want to pursue acting more. I'm kind of working on getting that started. But that was my first like true acting experience that I had. But I remember, so here's kind of how the story goes. So I remember I was in Los Angeles and I met a screenwriter who ended up writing the movie I, Tanya with Margot Robbie, where she plays Tanya Harding. And he just became friends with him and just, had a drink, blah, 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 went about my life. About a year later, I get a call from my buddy who's an actor in Georgia, and he goes, "Hey, they have a casting for a ring announcer. You should take a look." And I was like, "Okay." So I see it, and I see that it's for a Mike Tyson TV show. Now, with castings, they never really give you much information. They keep it very vague so you don't leak what they're doing or things like that. So I was like, "Oh, okay, it's a TV show about Mike Tyson, and they're casting a ring announcer." Um, and then I see the screenwriter is the guy that I met in Los Angeles. And so I was like, no way, blah, blah. So I connect with him. Long story short, I end up getting the role. I actually thought I was cast as Michael Buffer, to be honest. I wasn't. I was more cast as just like kind of I wasn't even really a ring announcer per se. The casting was kind of incorrect just because they don't know the industry. I was actually more of like a commentator radio type of person. So I remember I show up. First acting role I ever have is a 30-second monologue on camera. But it was announcing. And so I knew how to do it. I knew how to do the voice inflection. I knew how to emphasize certain words because it was scripted like a boxing announcer. So I do that for a living. I remember I sat down. The director of the show was a guy named Director X, who's done all of Drake's music videos, like all the big Drake music videos this guy directed. So he was the director. I sat down, delivered my lines, one take. And I remember the whole cast was like, "Have you done this before?" I was like, "Yeah, I kind of do this occasionally, blah, blah, blah." So they did a couple takes just for different camera angles. So it went great, left, loved it, really enjoyed it. And then my scene got cut on the editing floor. So I never actually got to be in the show. I'm credited, which is very nice. I was in the credits, which is cool. But no, I never actually appeared in the show, which is kind of a bummer. But it was an amazing experience, and the universe works in weird ways. The fact that I was announcing Mike Tyson in this, theatrical show, and then 2 years later, I'm actually meeting him in real life and introducing him in real life. That was kind of just the world is like I said, the universe is crazy.
Yeah, 100%. It's a shame you didn't make the show, but hopefully there's more acting
Ah,
opportunities for you in the future.
we'll
But you
see.
touched on Michael Buffer a little bit there, and I've heard you say in another
Yeah.
interview that you try and encompass a little bit of Michael and a little bit of Bruce. So can you tell me which elements you
Mhm.
take from both of those guys?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've always been asked, what announcers I like and what announcers I think are quality and things like that. And I've said that the Buffer brothers, in my opinion, are the kind of gold standard. Um, I mean, I would say what I like from both of them is I liked Michael's class and presentation and how clear his enunciation was. He was a very polished speaker. I thought his voice inflections were correct. I liked the way that he sounded. I liked the way that he introduced. I liked the energy that he brought for boxing at times. But I do prefer Bruce's energy. So I prefer a little bit more animation. I don't think I do it quite as much as Bruce does. I don't think that that's necessarily caters to boxing as well as it does MMA, UFC, but I like to take aspects from it. I think that Bruce is fantastic with how he engages with the fighters, which is something I like to do. A lot of announcers just stay static and they don't look at the boxers or anything. Or announcers stay static; they don't look at the boxers. I like to move around the ring. I like to get face to face with the boxers and kind of share that intimate moment with them. So yeah, I mean, those are the kind of two aspects that I take, but in everything, you want to be yourself. I want to be myself. I've gotten compared to Michael and Bruce a lot. People thought I was Michael's son on like social media. I'm not. Maybe it's because we're both white dudes with slick back hair. I don't know. But no, I respect him greatly. I've interacted with Bruce just over email, but never really. It's a very individualistic job, so I've never had a ton of interaction with other announcers in general. But no, I aim to be myself. But do I watch other announcers and kind of see what works and doesn't work and things like that? Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. The Michael Buffer comparisons make a lot of sense. You both bring a lot of entertainment to the show. And like him, you've been on such a crazy journey. You were doing the Denver car parks. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, look, my career started with originally I was a commentator. I just wanted to do commentary work. So I started calling um various local promotions, regional shows, trying to get work, and I came across one in Denver called Sparta. They've been around for a long time. I mean, great MMA fighters have fought for them. Justin Gaethje, Corey Sandhagen, Ian Heinisch, Justin Gonzalez. So they've always been for a long time because Denver's MMA market is so strong because you have so many great gyms there, like Trevor Whitman trains his people there, High Altitude and Genesis, and you have all those great MMA gyms. So Sparta was a great feeder league for a long time to the UFC and to Bellator. So that's what I started working with, started as a commentator, but I remember seeing the ring announcer and I thought, you know what, that I think I can do that. I think I can do that. And so I pestered them and eventually they let me do it. And it worked. I mean, looking back, I sounded horrific, but I had managers and coaches that said, hey, you might be onto something here. You should practice. You should do X, Y, Z. So at that moment, I kind of decided, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to be the best at it. So started branding myself as Big Mo. I used to wear sunglasses in the ring. I used to have this whole kind of shtick that I did just to kind of get noticed and get myself out there. But what the regional scene and working that did for me is it gave me reps. It gave me opportunities to do it in front of an audience, especially during COVID when you bring up the car parks. It's because during COVID, when everything was shut down, Sparta had the initiative and Wyoming was open. And we went up to Wyoming and we would do fights in like an event center, but kind of outside because of COVID restrictions. And that's what we did. And so I got to work a lot when a lot of people weren't working. So I'm very thankful for that. But it was that moment where I slowly started to figure out my voice a little bit. Slowly, okay, this is the kind of tone that I want, and it's developed a lot since then. But yeah, no, that was how I got my start, and I would put those clips on social media, and that's rest is history.
Yeah, you touched on your looks a little bit there with the sunglasses. Will the mustache ever make a return?
Oh yeah, the mustache will always make a return. Usually once a year. It's once a year it'll come out from hibernation, but for the time being, clean shaven.
Absolutely. And something else you did, which I thought was pretty wild. You did the first Burmese boxing show in North America, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think people, it's funny when I started working for Boxer, people thought like I just came out of nowhere. It's like, no, I actually was, trying a lot of different things. But yeah, Lethway, Burmese Boxing. They wanted to fight in North America. David Leduc, who is the widely regarded as the best in the world, he was on Joe Rogan's podcast before. He's a very incredible fighter. He wanted to fight in North America, and it never happened before. And again, the state of Wyoming was open to it, and they legalized Letway. Not full rules because in Myanmar they'd have like the warrior rule and things like that where you can be brought back after a knockout. We didn't do that. But yeah, for first Letway in North America, Was amazing experience, and yeah, definitely won't forget that. What a sport! That is a different that's a different level of brutality.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. And now you're going into what will be another massive fight, Madison Square Garden, where the likes of Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali have fought,
Hey,
Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. I know there's been points in your career where you sort of visualize that moment. How excited are you for this?
it's it's like surreal to even think about that it's going to happen, because I've affirmed it in my mind and I visualized it for a long time. When I was on that regional scene in Denver that you're talking about, I didn't think I was there. I wasn't imagining that I was there. I was imagining that I was in Madison Square Garden. And I had promoters, not Sparta, but other various promoters that I worked for independently in the beginning, basically try to tone me down, basically try to tell me, like, I don't know where you think you are and things like that. Like, this isn't that. Why are you dressed up so much? Like, and I had to explain to them it's because I'm not here. Like, I believe I can take this a lot further than this rec center that we're in or whatever, this gymnasium. Um, so yeah, the fact that it's going to be happening is insane to even think about. Um, Obviously, I got to introduce Katie and Amanda at the Paul Tyson undercard, and that went great. That was an amazing fight. Women's records were broken. I mean, they're incredible, and they're getting paid handsomely for this fight, which they absolutely both deserve. But no, the fact that I get to be there is incredible. The fact that I get to be announcing at Madison Square Garden from the Mecca is something I'm never ever going to forget. And then you pile on the fact that it's going to be on Netflix again. You pile on the fact that it's going to be an all women's card, which is it's funny that the all women's card, women's boxing has been so prevalent in my career. The first big show I ever did was Shields versus Marshall, an all women's card. Then earlier this year, I got to announce at the Royal Albert Hall for the first women's card with Price and Jonas. So women's boxing has always been a pivotal part of my career, and so the fact that I get to reach almost the pinnacle of venues and of announcing for in boxing with women's boxing is a blessing, and it's just it all fits and it all makes sense. I think.
Yeah, it's amazing that you're going to be able to write this next chapter. And you've already compiled so many amazing memories. We've talked about the Tyson show, announcing Mike Tyson, Burmese Boxing, the Denver car parks. All of it's pretty insane. What do you think is the craziest story you've had so far in your career?
um, I mean, my first like international break that I ever had was Eddie Hall versus Half Thor in Dubai, and that's kind of actually where Sky and Boxer saw me originally. That was crazy just because the whole buildup was wild, and it was like just kind of coming out of COVID, and just the whole I mean it was just a crazy, and the fact that it was like my first international, it was in Dubai, like I still was kind of figuring out who I was, like that was all crazy. Craziest story. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like I haven't had like crazy stories in the sense of like something wild that's happened. Just because with one, how I do my job, I don't really have those moments happen with my job. I'm a fairly, perfectionist person when it comes to my work. So I've never had like a big error or a big flub or anything like that. So yeah, I mean it's more so just been crazy fight weeks and just wild moments, when Mike Tyson slapped Jake Paul on stage, and next thing you know, 100 million people are watching the fight on Netflix. That was kind of crazy. I was expecting that fight to be big, but I wasn't expecting it to be the most watched fight ever. So yeah, I've had a couple here and there.
Perfect. Cody, thank you so much for giving me some time. I really appreciate it. But before I
Absolutely.
let you go, is there anything else that you'd like to mention?
No, I mean, make sure you watch Paul versus Chavez Jr. on DAZN pay-per-view this weekend. Make sure you watch Taylor versus Serrano 3 on Netflix in a couple weeks. Big few weeks for myself and my career. I'm very blessed to be doing what I'm doing. I appreciate you, James, and the various people that have allowed me to tell my story a little bit. Obviously, I'm just an accessory to the show. I'm not the show itself, but the fact that I get to tell a story is cool. So thank you very much. And I'll see you down the line.